Hello and welcome to the Explosions episode. Now, to explain what we're about to do, I've put together a really expensive simulation to help you visualize it a little bit. So what's going to happen is we have this asteroid that's fallen down, and then this laser comes in and hits the asteroid. When it collides with the asteroid will check and see if this is tagged as laser. And if so, the laser goes away, the asteroid creates an explosion, and then the asteroid goes away. And after the explosion has run, the explosion also goes away. Now, if you don't have expensive simulation equipment like this, you can still make one out of what you have laying around. This is called paper prototyping. Try it out sometime. Now, about making those explosions happen. First, we're going to take our prefab of the asteroid and we're going to modify it a little bit. So I'm going to bring it out into the scene itself, just dragging it into the hierarchy. Here it is. And we're going to add a script to it. Because when it hits the laser, it needs to check for that laser. It needs to be a little smarter, right? So there's a script that we need to attach to that. So go into our Space Chicken scripts. And we have the asteroid script that goes on our asteroid. And all we're doing right now is building something that we can then save as a prefab, so that when the spawner creates these asteroids, they have these new properties attached to it. So there's our asteroid. It now has the asteroid script attached. It's looking for something called boom. Well, that's that explosion thing that I showed you that is going to be created after the collision between the laser and the asteroid takes place. So, let's make an explosion object, or prefab actually. If you go into the Playground Project folder, Space Chicken Edition, and look in the Effects folder, I'm going into the Fire Explosion Effects, Prefabs, and the small explosion effect is a pretty good one. I'm going to drag that into the hierarchy. There it is, all explodey. And a couple of things I'm going to do here. One is, if I expand this out, you can see it's made of the light, the embers that go flying everywhere, and the fire, the brightest part there. And these are all set to looping. You can see this component called particle system. This is a native Unity thing. You can design your own, which can take some time because it's really fun to mess around with all these settings. But for right now, we don't want these things to loop. So we want the explosion to happen one time, and after the animation has happened, get rid of it. So I'm going to hold Shift and click on this with it expanded out, because I can turn the looping off for all of these things at once. Because if you click on the parent item, there's a looping setting, and each one of these has a looping setting as well. So now it's just going to happen once. I'm going to collapse this and rename our explosion. I'm just going to call it boom. And I'm now ready to create the prefab of these two things. And before I do that, I'm actually going to get rid of my old asteroid prefab. The reason I'm doing that, and don't do this, but if you drag it down now, well, now it's asteroid and asteroid 1, which can get really confusing which one's the original and which one you just modified, and it's just not a good situation. So I have my one I'm gonna make a prefab out of here, and so I'm gonna delete the old one first. Yeah. And then drag my asteroid from the hierarchy into my prefabs folder. And remember, by dragging that down here, that creates a prefab from it. And my prefab now has this attached, which is good. And the boom, I'm also going to create a prefab out of. There wasn't one to delete because there wasn't one before. So in the hierarchy here, in the actual live scene, I can get rid of the asteroid and the boom, because they are now saved as prefabs that we can call up anytime via script, which is exactly what the asteroid script does. Now, one last thing, our asteroid here, the prefab, it doesn't know what the boom object is, or prefab. So we need to link those by dragging the boom into where the asteroid wants it. And that way it knows when it collides with something tagged as laser, which remember our laser prefab is tagged as laser. So this script is checking for that collision, and if it does, it's going to create one of these, the boom prefab we just created. When that animation is done, it's gone. So laser goes away, asteroid goes away, boom goes away. Let's check this out. Oh, one other thing. Because we made a new asteroid prefab, the spawner says, I don't know what you want me to do with this. And we say, oh yeah, you need this prefab, so I'm going to link that in there so it knows what to actually spawn. Alright, let's try this now. Click through that. I'm going to zoom out of here so I can see a little better. And again, I'm horrible at this. There we go. So we got our laser. Boom! Big explosion. And the lasers actually go a little slow for my taste. So they start way too slow. So I'm going to make a modification to that laser in the prefab. It's actually the rigid body that's causing that. It weighs too much. So I'm going to make this a 0.1 and set the auto move to 8, which will give it more upwards energy and it won't weigh as much. So those two factors together make for a much faster laser. Click. Oh yeah, we got speedy lasers now. Pew, pew. Ah, now we're getting somewhere. Very pretty Michael Bay-like effects. We're making great progress here. Next, we're going to be making the space fox that rides around in the UFO. Yeah, we're going to teach you how to do paths so that you can see how to make the fox have this attack thing that looks like an infinity symbol. So stay tuned for that next.